All right, we're going to get started now. Hey, I know I said 11:05, but might as well just get going. Okay, so I've had four different questions that people have asked me to go over. So we're going to go over kind of the concept of how to handle the following program. So we're going to look at trippy text, which is the one that I have up here. This is in 4.4. We're going to look at the maze. I'm sorry, the rotating stars problem, which is also in this section. And then we're going to look at 4.3 point 5, which is meteorite display, and we're going to look at volcano from 4.4. So a lot of stuff from Unit 4. The whole point was to be able to, give you a chance to catch up with a lot of that. So hopefully you've used that time wisely. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see the code a little better. There we go. Okay, so starting off with trippy text, here's the kind of solution. The idea here is that if I type in letters, that you get this kind of offset blue and yellow color, right? And we can kind of highlight it and see that it's magenta on the front with some opacity, and then we can go back and there's a yellow back there, and cyan in the middle, right? So remember, if you hold down the control button, it tells you down here, control will show you the inspector so you can kind of see where everything is, okay? So the idea here is they've kind of already done a lot of the stuff. They wrote the labels, right, for here's your cyan, yellow, magenta, right? So we have this fancy label function that we can use where it's gonna give us a key, right? And then it's gonna ask for whichever key we type, and then it's gonna also use an x and a y coordinate. And you can see that for yellow and magenta, they kind of offset it. They moved it to the right and to looks like up a little bit, right? And then they did the opposite with the magenta to make it look all trippy, right? And set the opacities and all that, right? So all of the actual lettering's done. Your job is just going to be to execute it like when it should actually be running. Okay, so let me pull up my notes on this one just to make sure I cover everything. Okay, so what this is basically saying is that when a key is pressed, that it should, I'm sorry, when spacebar is pressed, it should move the cursor. When enter is pressed, it should move down to the next line. When backspace is pressed, it should cover up the previous letter, right? So essentially, if it's acting like a keyboard, like we're making a little word processor here, okay? So here's kind of the way that this is going to work. The first thing we're going to have to do is deal with these special characters, right? And basically say if any of these happen, then we're going to do something specific, and that we'll look at it in a second when we get there. Okay, it says place your code here. So we're going to start off with, okay, move down. It won't scroll down. Okay, so we're going to start off with the if command. Okay, we're going to say if the key, right, is the space bar, right? So that's the first one. It says if space is pressed, move the cursor. So we're going to say if we do space, okay, then it says move the cursor, okay? And if we look at the inspector, I don't know if it's obvious on the inspector. Move to next line. We're going to be moving it 30 spaces to the right, right? So what we're going to end up doing here is, I don't know why you guys can't see. There it is. Okay. We're going to say that the cursor, okay, is going to be moved, the x, the center of the cursor, is going to be moved plus equals 30, okay? So this is our way of moving the cursor to the right, not 39, plus equals 30, okay? So that moves it 30 spaces to the right, okay? That's our first thing. That's all spacebar does, okay? The next thing, if I zoom out, okay, there we go. Okay. The next thing is going to be an else if, right? Because we don't want these to be independent statements. We want it to first check for spacebar. If it's not spacebar, then we want it to check for the enter key. So we're going to say if the key that they typed is enter, okay, then we want it to do something specific as well. That's going to be just running this move to next line. You can see that it's going to move the Y down, right, 60, which is like the height of one of these pictures with plus a little, one of these letters plus a little bit. And then it's going to move the X part all the way back to 30, which is the beginning of the line, okay? So we're going to say just run move to next line, okay? And that's it. That's all that's got to do, okay? The third possibility is they type in a rectangle. I'm sorry, they type in the backspace, in which case we want to draw a rectangle that covers up that previous one. So if the key is equal to backspace, okay, then two things are going to happen. First thing we're going to do is we're going to move the cursor back. So the cursor is going to be the x coordinate is going to be go back 30. So we're going to do minus equals 30. Okay. So that'll put it back over where it was. So when we type a letter again, it'll go kind of over top of the previous one. Then we're going to put down a rectangle that is centered at, I'm sorry, the top left corner is centered at cursor dot center x, right, which has now been moved over, okay, minus 20, okay. We'll talk about these numbers in a second, okay. And then the y is going to be minus 30, okay. And then it's going to be a 40 by 80 shape, okay. And the fill is ivory, and the reason we're doing the fill is ivory is because the background, you can see the app background is also ivory, and we don't want it to be seen, so that's how we're going to kind of cover up the letter that was written. So we're going to do a fill of ivory. Okay. Fill equals ivory. Okay. Okay. So the reason that we have this kind of setup is, remember, the cursor was just moved over 30. And when we're defining the rectangle, we're defining the, let's go to the documents for this so you can see it. Okay, rectangle, here it is. Okay, so this is the left and the top, and then the width and the height. So if our cursor is kind of like right here, we actually want the top of the rectangle to kind of be up and to the left. So that's why we're subtracting 20 and subtracting 30. That's gonna kind of make it so that that we cover up the entire thing from the top corner down, right? So this is going to now be our backspace command, right? And then the idea here is now, if none of those other things work, right, if we don't type any of those special characters, okay, we're going to run the draw fancy label, which they've kind of already done the hard work for us. Okay, and you can see that for draw fancy label, it asks us for 3 parameters, key, x, and y. Okay, so we're going to say we have to type in the key, which conveniently here on mouse press also has key as its parameter. So we're going to say that letter will be the label, okay? And then the location is going to be cursor center x and cursor center y. Okay? And so that will put that label exactly where the cursor spot is, right? Which again, we kind of created right here, right? It started off at 30.30, but we're moving that around. Okay, so that's like kind of be all the special key presses. And then it says here, if the new center x is greater than 370, then we want to move to the next line, right? So we're kind of cutting it off at 370. And so for that, we're just going to say if the cursor, and this is the x value, right? We care about center x, okay, because that's what's moving it left and right, is greater than, and I'm going to say greater than or equal to 370. If you did greater than, I'm not sure if you got an error, because it does say greater than right here, but I'm going to put a greater than or equal to it. Move to next line. If you're getting an error, just double check that, right? So now, if you take a look, I have this extra if statement, which is not associated with these special characters. We're just saying, okay, type the letter, then if the cursor's greater than or equal to 370, if I'm kind of all the way over here on the side, it's time to move down to the next line because we'll start going off the edge, right? The labels are 30 wide, right? You can see that, like, that's the size of them, right? So if I'm at 370 and the inspector window only goes up to 400, right, we would go off the side edge, right? So that's the idea. So that's all this program is kind of a big if statement for all the special letters, and then to draw the fancy label, and then a separate if statement whose job it is to move us down to the next line. So that's trippy text, okay? All right, so that's the first one. All right, problem number 2 is, let's go back, okay, is the stars, right, rotating stars. Okay, so for rotating stars, the idea here is that when you hit the play button, let's see if I can do it, play, there you go, that they'll move in and out like this, okay, as you move the mouse, right? So if you're moving the mouse anywhere, they're going to do this crazy rotating star thing, okay? All right, so if we go down here, here's where we're putting our code, which is about rotating and resizing the stars, okay? And this is, again, going to be an if statement, and essentially the way that this one's going to work is we're going to say if if it's smaller than its maximum size, then continue rotating and making it larger, and then once it gets to that maximum size, right, which you can see right here, it says when the radius is at most 5 or at least 200, then we're going to kind of keep it going, okay? So here's how this code's going to work, okay? We're going to do, starting off with, if you notice right here at the top before we get to that, Okay, okay. So they set the is growing status of each of these to be true, because essentially when we start off, I don't know if I can reset it. They're already small, so they're going to grow initially, and then our job is going to be to kind of change this, that when they get to their maximum, okay, that we're going to change that to false, and then that'll stop them from growing and start them shrinking. So this is going to be kind of like a toggle that we're going to use to set those up. So we're going to say if. Okay, and we're going to use generic S, okay, because if you notice the parameter for rotate and resize star is S, right? So it will input these three specifically, and you can see down here they're calling on it. It says on mouse move, right? They're specifically inputting the three different stars that they drew, right? We're going to generically for this one just use S. We're going to say if S dot is growing, okay, this custom field is true, if it's equal to true, then two things are going to happen. We're going to say that particular star, its radius, is going to do a plus equals 5, right? We're going to make it a little bit bigger, plus equals 5, okay? And the rotate angle is also going to do a plus equals 5. Okay? So that's what happens when it's growing, is it rotates by 5 and it grows by 5, okay? Otherwise, meaning if it's false, so if you did an else if with false, that would probably be okay. I'm just going to say else, because that covers everything. Else, no parameters for else, okay? We're going to say that the opposite happens. So it's going to do a minus equals 5, okay, for both the radius and for the rotate angle. Okay, so this is how we're handling it growing and shrinking, okay? Minus equals 5. Okay, we're saying if is growing, if that flag is set to true, then we're going to make it grow, and then otherwise we're going to make it false, right? So obviously right now we've never changed the status of these from true to false, right? So this is going to just kind of go forever if this is where we stopped. Okay, here's where the second part comes in. Now we're going to say if the radius of the star is too big, if it's at least 200, then we're going to flip this toggle from true to false so that it'll start shrinking. It'll do this part of it instead of doing the is growing part. Okay, so for this one, we're going to say another if statement. Okay, we're going to say if, okay, s dot radius, okay, is less than or equal to 5, okay, then the s dot is growing, right? That toggle should be set equal to true. Okay? Otherwise, so I'm going to do an else if. Okay? And notice I'm not doing else here. I'm specifically doing else if because we have a specific situation that we want this to trigger, right? It's not just any other case, right? So we're going to say if the s dot radius gets to be greater than or equal to 200, then we're going to do set s dot is growing to be equal to false. Okay, so again, what this is doing, okay, and we don't need pass anymore. Okay, did I get rid of the other one? I did. Okay, so again, here's what's happening. We'll just do star one. Star one, which is the sky blue one up top here, right? It starts off with a radius of 5, right? That's its radius. Okay, so and its is growing status is set to true. Okay, so if I go into this code and run this, it's going to say if S1's is growing is true, which it is, okay, then we're going to keep adding 5 to the rotate angle, and we're going to keep doing that, right? It's going to kind of go through that. And then it's going to go down here and check. It's going to say if it's less than or equal to 5, well, it's definitely not, right? Because we just moved it up to like 10, okay? Then set it to true, so that's not going to run. If it's greater than or equal to 200, then we're going to set it to false, which that also isn't right. Right now it's 10, right? So that's where we're going to stop, okay? So this one's just generally not going to run, okay? It's going to go back and keep doing this over and over and over again until this gets to be 200, and then it's going to come down here and it's going to run this one, and it's going to say, oh, hold on, it's greater than or equal to 200, set this to false. And then when we go through, this thing's then going to be like, oh, okay, S1's is growing is now false, so this first one's not going to run, and now it's going to do the minus, minus, minus until it gets down to 5, then it'll set it back to true, and then it'll kind of go back through and do this one again, okay? So that's the idea with this one. So if we run our solution, okay, it should work now, right? Yep, that looks like it's working, okay? And that's doing what it's supposed to be doing, okay? So I think if we check this one, it should be good to go. Cool, I earned 2 points. There you go, okay? So that's the idea with this one. You have to be specific so that when we type, like, other weird key presses, it works for that too, okay? So that is the second one, which is rotating stars. Okay, so the third one that I was asked about was the meteorite display. So let's go back to meteorite display, which is in 4.3. Okay, so here's meteorite display. Okay, so meteorite display. Okay, so the idea with this one, I hope I didn't do this one yet with somebody. I did not. Okay, so meteorite display. So the idea with meteorite display is that when the mouse, right, where we kind of have our flashlight here, right, when that touches the meteorite that's on the display, that it should set the alarm off, turn everything red, all that. Okay, so you can see that they've already kind of done all of the casing, the meteorite, right, the cover that's on top of it, the rectangle, the alarm, like, so they've written all the stuff. Here's the light that's kind of moving around, right, and the first thing they're doing is they're saying on mouse move, okay, that hand, right, which is the oval, right, is going to move with us. Okay, so you can see that that's the kind of like the white smoke look. Okay, oh, the light is this up here. Okay, all right, so they've already kind of set that part up, that when we move, let me turn this off. Okay, okay, when we move around, one of my keys is stuck. Hold on. That one. Okay. So when we move around, this thing should be moving with us. My thing's being weird. Let me reset it. Okay. Okay, so here's what it's saying. It says, if the hand cursor intersects the meteorite, show the alarm, rotate the alarm lights. Otherwise, it goes back to where it started. Okay, so here we go. There we go. Now it's working. All right, so we have a couple things we have to do. Okay, starting off, okay, we're going to say, if the hand cursor intersects the meteorite, show the alarm. Okay, so let's start dealing with that. Okay, so we're going to say if, okay, okay, and then the hand is our cursor, right? You can see that that's the oval that has the white smoke look to it. Okay, so we're going to say if hand dot, okay, and this is one of your documents. Let me see if I can pull it up. It's called hits shape. Okay, so you should have seen it in the thing, right? So we have this hits shape command, okay, that basically says it's going to see if two things touch each other, right? And if they do, then we're going to trigger some kind of effect, right? So you can see if red circle hits blue circle is true, then we're going to do something. If red circle hits gold circle, then we'll do something else, right? So we're going to use that because we're basically going to say if, as we're moving this around, okay, if the light, if the hand touches the meteorite, which is this polygon up here, okay, which we called meteorite, if they touch, then we want something to happen. Okay, so we're going to say if hand dot hits shape, okay, it's two S's, hit shape, okay, and we want to see if it hits the meteorite. And if that's true, okay, then a couple things are going to happen. First thing is we're going to change the background. If we come over to our inspector here, see if I can get to run again. Oh, not mine. There we go. So if I inspect this, you can see that right now. Let's see if I can get it to. Trying to get it to pause on there, but I don't think I can. Oh, shift space to pause. There we go. Okay. So now you can see that a couple things have happened, right? My background. I'm trying to find the background. RGB 90. It's fire brick, but I'm not sure how to see that on here. Doesn't say it in here. It's weird. Not sure. Oh, there you go. So I had to go all the way down to the corner. So you can see that the background changed to fire brick at an opacity of 50, right? So we're going to start off by saying that's going to happen, right? The whole background is going to turn red, okay? So we're going to say that app.background, okay, is going to change from its nice, like light, whatever color, ivory color, and instead it's going to be fire brick, okay? Because the alarm just went off, okay? The next thing is that you can see that the alarm cover, right, is going to be visible, right? Currently it's not visible, right? If we go back, I have to like unpause it now, shift space again. See if we can resume, okay? Okay, so I don't know what the alarm cover is doing. Okay, so we're going to do the alarm cover as well. Okay, so this one's going to be alarm cover, okay, is going to be visible, right? So we're going to change its visibility to be equal to true, okay? The alarm light is also going to be true. So you can see that we did that right here. The cover and the lights, we kind of drew them, but we set their visibility to false because that's only going to be seen when the alarm goes off. So the alarm light's visibility is also going to be set to true. Okay, and then the light, okay, right, this thing right here is also set to opacity 20. Okay, the light, so you can see when we go over it, see that little like this beam here, that goes away, right? So whenever I highlight it, this yellow beam that's on top of it goes off. So we're going to set the light, its visibility is going to be false, okay, with a capital F, okay, and then the alarm lights are going to rotate. So alarm lights, okay, visible, okay, equals, I'm sorry, not visible, rotate angle is going to be plus equals 5, okay. So this is all the stuff that has to happen when the light goes off. We're going to turn the background red. We are going to make the alarm cover true. The lights will be turned on. The original light, the non-alarm light, will be false. Okay, and then we're going to rotate the alarm lights, right? So all of that's done. Okay, and then the opposite, if hand.hitch shape is not true, right? So we can just use an else statement here. Then we're going to set everything back to its original state. Okay, so you can see that the original state, which is at the top here, we have this background setting, right? So we want that to be true. Okay, so I'm just going to go copy this. We basically want to set this up, okay, and then we want to turn everything off, right? Everything that we just turned on, okay, we want to turn off. We're going to switch them, right? So we're going to say that the alarm.cover visible will be set to false. Okay, that the alarm, not dot cover, that the alarm lights visibility will also be set to false. Okay, and then the light, the original like nice happy beam light that's on there right now, that should be set back to true. Okay, so this is the idea. This is kind of like a toggle situation where we're using the new hits shape command and saying, okay, if right now we have this nice setting, right, but if I go like this, it'll throw the fire brick over it, right, and it'll get the alarm going as we move it. Okay, so this should make everything work if we check our code. Oh, center Y. Oh, I just put a space bar here. Let's fix that. Okay, let's try again. Please run your code. Oh, sorry, run my code. What doesn't it like about my code? If hand.hitch, oh, expecting an indent. This is the one bad thing about, not bad thing, but Python relies on indentation. Let's see if it does. There we go. It like that. Okay. So if you ever get that error, it's usually they have these nice lines here for your indentation. Okay. All right. So that was meteorite display. Okay. And the last one that was requested is a very popular one, and we're going to see what the issue is. Hopefully, the person that asked for this doesn't have this particular issue, but I'm going to write it first, and then we'll see if we come across it. There's been an issue with some people getting extra shapes or something like that. Okay, so we'll see what happens when we do it. Okay, so the last one is volcano, and the idea with volcano is that when we click, okay, where's that? Okay. Decrease the lava amount. Okay, it's supposed to run. Oh, solution. Nope, that's my canvas. Solution. Run. Okay, we'll see it in actions. Oh, there you go. It is working. Okay, so you can see that right now this little piece at the top is a nice light orange color, and as I click, it's getting darker and darker, and eventually it's going to get super dark, and that's going to cause it to explode, right? So that's what we're trying to do with this one. Okay, so you can see that it says decrease the green in the lava color until there's no green left, right? So the orange and green, I'm sorry, red and green, I guess, is making this nice orange color, right? And as we decrease the green, it just gets redder and redder and redder. And then once we get to a certain point, right, when green gets down to 0, that's going to cause the eruption to happen. And you can see that there's this nice big draw spill, right? This is kind of doing all of the eruption, okay? So for this one, we're going to start off. Let me get to my notes again, okay? Notes for volcano. Here it is. Okay, so we're going to start off and say on mouse press. Okay. Couple things are going to happen. Okay. We're going to say if, okay, lava, right? So you can see that here's the lava. Where's that? So lava's dot green setting is starting off at 200. Okay, and we used that for the oval, right? Here it is. It's at 200. Okay. So that's what's kind of setting the color. So we're going to come down here and say if that particular parameter, lava.green, is greater than 0, then our job is going to be to decrease the value, okay, by 40. Okay, so we're going to slowly go down 40 at a time. And if you're curious where we're getting the 40 from, okay, I don't know if it's set it in your code, but we can just kind of look at it and say, okay, right now, if I hold up my inspector, the color is 200. If I then run it, okay, let's see if I can get it to run. Okay. And we'll go click on that. You can see that now it is at 160, right? The color RGB went down to 160. If I click again, I can look at it again and say, okay, now the color's down to 120. So you can see it went from 200 to 160 to 120, right? And we're just going to keep lowering it until it gets low enough, okay? So we're going to say lava.green is got to be minus equals 40, so we're going to decrease that value. Then we're going to redraw the lava fill. So lava.fill, the color is going to be RGB, okay, which remember stands for red, green, blue. Okay, so RGB, okay, and we're going to leave the first and the last one. The red and the blue are not going to change. So we're going to say 255, which is the highest red setting. Okay, green is going to be this parameter. We're going to kind of fill in a variable for this, so it'll keep going down. So we're going to call this one lava.green, okay? And then the blue has always been 0, so we'll leave that 0, okay? So that's all that's going to happen. It's going to keep going. It's going to decrease lava.green, and then it's going to redraw the fill for this lava oval here, okay? So that's what's going to happen if, okay, lava.green is greater than 0. So it'll keep going down. It says otherwise that it should erupt, okay? So we're going to say else, okay? Or else if, we'll say, we'll be specific, okay? If the volcano, if volcano has erupted is false, okay, then we should make the burst, where's that? Right, this lava explosion is currently set to visibility false. So we're going to make it explode. So we're going to say burst, okay, is going to be set to true. Okay. The background is going to change color. So let's take a look at that real quick. If I go to the solution, okay, and I run it, oop, not mine. Okay, you can see that the background color changes, right? It's this different color now, right? So if we inspect that, okay, we can go down to the bottom. Let's see if we do that. Okay, that the background is light slate gray to slate gray as a gradient, right? So we're going to have to set that. Okay, so we're going to call this a gradient, okay, that goes from light slate gray, okay, to light gray. Okay, and then it does have we have to specify how it's moving, right? So you can see that if I go to this, it is, oh, it doesn't say. That's interesting. I guess we just have to look at it. So light slate gray to light gray is going from the top, right? So the lighter gray down here, and it's kind of slate gray up here, which is darker, right? So we're going to say that it's going to, the gradient is going to start at the top, okay? Okay. So that's going to happen, right? So we're going to make the burst visible, which is this thing up top. We're going to change the background so that it's this nice light gray color, okay? We're going to run draw spill, okay? Which is going to kind of draw these little polygons here, okay? And then, this is an important thing, we're going to set volcano has erupted. We're going to set that to true, right? And the reason we're doing that is because we don't want this code to run again, right? We want it to, we can still kind of keep doing, we can still keep doing this, but we don't want it to explode again and have it redraw. So we're going to set this to now be true, and that will cause this else if to not run anymore, right? And that'll kind of stop the code, okay? So if we run this, let's see what happens, okay? I have an error because I did not put my other equal sign in, okay? This is why we're checking our code. Okay, so now it looks like it's working. Let's check. Click, 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 okay? Boom, there we go, okay? So it should move, we should be able to click 5 times if we started at 200. And we're going down by 40s, right? That's 5 clicks. So let's just double check that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that takes it all the way down to green is 0. And this says as long as green is greater than 0, keep doing this. right? And then the last time this is not going to run anymore, and it's going to move down to this. It's going to run this, make it explode, and then set this equal to true, and then nothing else should happen. None of this code will run now because green is now 0. It's gotten to be equal to 0, so this won't run. And then we just set app.volcano to be true, which means that this second part's also not going to run, right? So none of the code will run anymore. This entire on mouse press is just not used anymore, okay? So that is, I believe, the last one that I was asked about. Let me just check my email and make sure I didn't get any more. I did not. Okay, so these are the 4 problems that were requested. If you have any other questions, during this catch-up week, just let me know, and I can still email communicate with you to let you know, okay? So hopefully you have a good day and have a good weekend, and we have probably only 2 more weeks left of assignments, so we'll do 2 next week, or 1 next week and 2 the week after that, and that should wrap us up. So hopefully we can get through the end of Unit 5, okay? So again, have a good week, and send me an email if you have any questions.